All right, so R20, let's go ahead and take a look at Module 5. So this is the week that you're running through your first critique, and then we're going to jump into shape after that. So what is due, right? I think, really what you want to make sure you get done this week by Wednesday is your critique, and then you have an exercise and a sketchbook assignment. That is like everything that's due. The actual project 2, that is under construction, but I'm just putting it out there so you can kind of plan for it and start thinking about it. We're kind of shifting away from looking at line and value and going into shape, both positive and negative space. So that's kind of where we're at. So what are some of the goals, right? So like for the critique itself, you're going to notice on this, if you pushed on the first one, there is no place to submit on this critique. Just think of this page as a placeholder and it's a reminder, because I shifted my structure over the past semester just to so people can understand that, hey, there is a critique that's attached to the project, because the discussion board doesn't really tell you to go back and revisit it once you've submitted your artwork, right? So what we're going to do is go back, and these are your prompts. So you have these prompts like tell us about your word choice. Why did you choose to make a sculpture out of it? What do you want your audience to take away from it? So like a paragraph on that. So tell us about your word, and then go into challenges. What challenges did you come across developing this drawing? These drawings might be the concept drawing or going into the actual drawing. What solutions did you come up with for this assignment? And that's all you talking about your artwork. So you can go to, I'll show you in a bit, but you can go and edit your own post. If you click on the 3 dots that are on the right-hand side, you should be able to go ahead and edit that. The other one is write about another person's work. So do you like this piece of art? Why or why not? What is most successful about this piece? What is the least successful about this piece? And what would you recommend for improvement? So a big part of being an artist is being able to provide feedback to one another and to give each other ideas. That's the thing that you get in an artist studio that you're not going to get working in a vacuum in your own home studio. Whether you have your studio that you go to or you have it at home, you want to get in that practice of talking to other creatives. That's how we get ideas. That's how we grow. So what we're doing is we're formalizing this process into, hey, these are some skill sets that you should have to be a good artist. And to get better at drawing, you're going to naturally talk to other people. So think about if you're new to this, because maybe you're not an art major or this is your first drawing class ever, know that the concept of this is what we call constructive criticism. We're not here to demean anyone's work or devalue people's work. We're looking at the work for how it is and how it's presented. And if it helps, you're kind of looking at it objectively, right? Like it's an object. Forget about the person that's attached to it. Just look at the work for what it is and then respond to that work. Another thing that I would highly suggest is when you go into where do I participate, find someone that doesn't already have 2 posts. Right? Because you have to do one peer response. So anyone that already has, 1 post is going to be too much. So I'm just going to do a quick search if anyone's started on that yet. We'll see. So let's see, because I think I'm jumping the gun. Oh man, these are really good. Can I just mention that you're all doing a fantastic job. I know this is a lot of work, but the end results look so good. So I hope you enjoyed running through this process, because there's a lot to learn from doing this activity. Man, this is some good drawings. Sorry, I got taken away by seeing just the first few that I was coming across. So really nice work. I don't normally get to say that unless we're in person, but I should let you know that now. Really impressed. So going into that, those are your 2 things. Scroll down, look for someone, and it's helpful. Make sure that they've written their intro, because it's hard to respond to someone if you don't know what their work is about, because sometimes that helps give us another depth or meaning. So that's sort of my feedback for you. Do make sure that you take note of that word count. So, on yours, make sure it's in that 150 to 200 range. I might ask you to redo it if it's not. Same with when you're writing about someone else's work. So there is a word count when you do your reply. Go ahead and double check that before you click the submit. If it's 140, probably not a big deal. 210, probably not a big deal. It's when they get to the more extremes, like 100, or like if it's 100, it's too little. If it's 300, it's too long. So if that helps, it gives you an idea of like how much depth can I go into? Because some of you are coming from, you've been drawing for 10 years, and others are like, this is my first time drawing. So I want you to, practice and kind of come in where you're at. The next part of our module is if we go into, let's say our exercise, right? So we're gonna, after the critique, that's all due Wednesday, and then we're jumping into negative space. So I have a little intro here on like woodless pencils. Try the woodless pencil. That's that. And if you got the kit, that's that Lyra water soluble. Try using that for this exercise. I think it's a lot easier because you have a large piece of graphite to work with. Rather than working with your actual like shading pencils, because the wood is in the way and it's going to take a long time to fill in the background. So when we're thinking about negative space, this article, I'd like you to come through this, look at the visuals and read the text and anything that seems unfamiliar, right? You want to take note of things that are kind of new to you. What we're doing is we're essentially trying to take this concept and see the shape, the negative space, all that is everything behind the object, and you're going to fill it in black. Now the difference is you don't want to do a single object, you want to do 5 or more. So I also have a lecture on shape here that has some examples of either student works or just some ideas for this particular technique. And what we're doing is we're trying to train our eye to see a shape. And when it's more complex, it also makes a really interesting composition. If we look at the compositions here, they're all actually pretty nice and balanced compositions in different ways. As negative space though, this one on the left's kind of dull. I mean, it's a nice drawing, right? And it's nice and clean, it's formal, it's presented well. But, if we look at it, is your eye activated to go around the edges of the sheet? That would be something that I would look at personally, right? So in looking at these other ones with the chair and the stacked umbrella and that little bit that's added on the on the right, that kind of breaks up this space, right? You kind of see that jagged line it creates. And then this one with the plants in the background, I think it might have been like someone's plants in front of like a glass window or a sliding glass door. And so you're getting those strips of metal, but it breaks up that space nicely. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at what's interesting behind the object. And so this is where your viewfinder is going to be really handy for working with this. Especially this one you could do an area in your house, but make sure, like, I don't know, I think let's stick to the still life. Set up a still life, make something that has some like interesting height, width, and breaks up the background a lot. And what you want to do is you're kind of drawing that outline and then filling it in with black. And you want to do this twice. Each one of these drawings should take you roughly about 1.5 hours. So I'd say like if you're doing about 1.5 hours per drawing, that's just about right. If for some reason you're whipping through these and you're filling in the background really quick, maybe you're using charcoal or maybe it's just kind of something you've done before, do a couple drawings and submit your best ones. Like, if you did 4 drawings, submit 4 drawings. Show me what you worked on. That will only help your grade in the long run. So I think I'd rather, it's okay to submit more. The next part that you're going to be doing that's working with positive and negative space is I'd like you to just play with this idea. Now, this won't be a finished drawing, so keep that in mind, and I believe I need to update the sketchbook number. This is actually sketchbook, it might be, I think it's sketchbook 4, but I'll double check on that for you. I'll go ahead and correct that. But what we're looking at, here's some examples, right? Do they need to be as intricate as this? Yes and no. I don't think it needs to be as intricate as Peter and the Wolf, but the takeaway here with Peter and the Wolf is the positive space is the wolf, and how the wolf's body curves around and creates the silhouette of Peter's face. Peter's face is the negative space, and then they're using that negative space to put in the text Peter and the Wolf. So it's a way that you see designers use this technique a lot, and this happens a lot more in graphic design. But I would like you to take note of how does the composition look on some of these, and you can see how people are using it in creative ways. Some of it is to make a picture within a picture. So if we look at the the flowers down here, it creates a skull. Here's another picture within the picture. It's the jumping fox. So it's like predator and prey, right? So the predator is the fox jumping. I think yes, and then the prey is on the inside, the jackrabbit. So then it's creating the scene within a scene. So sometimes you might use that positive and negative space to create an entry into further exploration of the drawing. If you're like, I'm not sure what to do, try something like this hand, where maybe you're taking just a simple shape like your hand, and then in the background you're applying some of the techniques you learned in the previous few weeks. Right? Maybe you draw a pattern back there, and then instead of doing a bold outline where the hand is, just stop the pattern where the edge of the hand is, right? So maybe it's a pattern of flowers, or maybe it's a pattern of little tiny skulls, right? You might want to push that Halloween theme since it's that time of the year. And then there's some other different ways of approaching it, looking at positive and negative space, right? I think these are kind of like, artistic takes on it with the MC Escher on the far right. But this fish, right, is a good example where I'm saying you could take a shape like your hand, right? And then they're using this sort of swirling background to be a part of that design. Another one I think is really cool, these arms of the city. So the background is really simple, right? It's just all filled in black. But you have these arms that are reaching down in between the negative space of the sky, where the sky and the buildings meet, and they turn into these arms picking up the cars like these giants. So I think there's some really fun creative ways you can play with this. Don't be concerned that it needs to be like your project level. It still is a sketch, and do the right amount of time yourself, and when you run out of 2 hours, and that's it, you're done. Going into the project 2, we're going to be working with this, and I'll add in some examples for you of some past student examples. I got more of these now, so I feel like I'm pretty confident to be able to add some more in here. But you will have some preliminary sketches to do. I think the takeaway here is to look at the dates and kind of get an idea of, thinking about that sketchbook exercise. What could I do to explore this further? And so your Wednesday, September 29th, that's like, in another 10 days, you want to have ideas, and you want to have 4 of those. And so 4 concepts. And then going into part 2, your project's going to be due on October 10th, and the critique will be on the 13th. So I think that's the major takeaway for this, pretty much what we're doing this week. Let's see if there's any other bits, but yep, hold on. I think that's it. Yes, that's it. And that number is sketchbook number 4. So I'll go ahead and correct that for you. I think that's about it. So I look forward to taking a look at your projects this week. Really good work. I'm excited to see how they all turned out. All right, take care. Bye.